Welcome to the tactical preview of Manchester City versus Everton. In this series, what I try to do is predict City's starting 11. I also attempt to offer some insight into the opposition, their key strengths, weaknesses, to hopefully offer an overview as to how the match may go. As always, we're going to be starting with the opposition for this video, Everton, who have not really been playing how I thought they were going to, based on their squad composition, based on David Moyes being their manager as well. They have been far more adventurous and offensive than I thought they were going to be. So right from the off, I don't know if this is going to be as straightforward as really deep, compact, low block at the Etihad. We'll get into why it may lean more into that based on how they've been playing this season, but certainly based off this season so far, that's not really how they have been playing for the most part. For example, they've not played with a back five once at all season. Against Liverpool at Anfield, even. They were totally happy to try to actually play football and really press Liverpool high up the pitch. In fact, that's how they got their goal. They pressed high up the pitch, they forced an error. With Grealish and Ndiaye in particular, they are a really progressive, pressing, offensive threat, or rather a defensive threat. Their pressing's actually really impressive. However, there is no Jack Grealish. And he has been, arguably, their best player so far this season. He can't play against City. Arguably, their best player this season isn't going to be available, one of their best sources of goals and assists in the league. So there is not going to be any Jack Grealish. There is going to be Dewsbury Hall, however. He has served his suspension. That's going to be absolutely fine. There is no Branthwaite, so expect this to be the exact same back four. Pickford, of course, in goal. I expect this to be the exact same back four. As we'll get into, this is the area that City should be targeting rather than the right side, and it might be a totally different striker as well. Dewsbury Hall, I would expect to be playing over Dibbling. Why did I specify this sort of area for City to be attacking? Well, if you go and look at every single goal that Everton have conceded this season, aside from the penalty that they conceded on the opening day of the season, every single one of the goals that they have conceded has actually been off that right side. Sorry, rather their left side, their opponent's right side. So that is massively going to inform our squad building for City, or rather how we are going to view the match. City should realistically be doing all they can to provide as much offensive thrust down Everton's left and really ask them questions consistently, because Keane and Mykolenko as a combination seems to be far less defensively secure than Tarkowski and O'Brien. Tarkowski, I think, is a fantastic defender on an individual level. Keane is not their starter. Branthwaite would have been, but he's injured and out, I believe. O'Brien is a really physical fullback, so it's important that we pick our wide player accordingly. Very brief on Everton. They are more than capable of causing City problems. This is not going to be an easy match by any means. The only reason why I'm a little bit more hopeful is because they are going to be without Jack Grealish, who I will repeat has been arguably their best player and is a key cog to their pressing mechanics. We know that City have struggled with build-up a lot this season. Everton have demonstrated they can cause great sides like Liverpool to struggle in their build-up, so they could absolutely still do that to us, but a key element of that pressing structure has, or rather is, not going to be available for them. So that's briefly Everton, who I have genuinely been impressed with so far this season based on my viewing of them. By the way, this is how Everton lined up in their most recent game. This is how City lined up in our most recent game. So going to Manchester City now, it's interesting because lots of players are now back from injury. Some aren't. So Rodri immediately is not going to be available because Pep has confirmed that he is not yet ready. Kusanov is another one. Outside of those two, apparently everyone else is available. Now, am I going to predict the players who are returning from injury to start? No, I don't think so. If I were to do that, I probably would punt for, let's say, Cherki rather than Marmoush or Ait-Nouri. I'll get into why not Marmoush in a moment, but the reason why I wouldn't go for Ait-Nouri instead of O'Reilly is because of the transitional threat of Ndiaye. And even though I think Ait-Nouri is a good defender, Nico O'Reilly has been such a defensive powerhouse. He's been able to basically shut up Madueke and Saka amongst other opponents. So I would back O'Reilly to win that 1v1 battle against Ndiaye more often than not. So even if it weren't a returning from injury Ait-Nouri, I still might pump for O'Reilly in that situation. So let's go through the side, shall we? So it's obviously going to be Donnarumma. I'm going to pick the left back, partly because Ait-Nouri is just coming back from injury, but also for the threat of Ndiaye, as I've just outlined. This seems to be the go-to centre-back pairing for Pep, and there is no Kusanov either, so it makes sense to just predict these two again. There is no Kusanov, so that means that our options at right-back would be Lewis, Nunes, and I guess technically Stones. One of the reasons why I would have selected Nunes, even if Kusanov were available, is because of that frailty down, or relative frailty down Everton's left side. We really want to be making our right side as offensively capable as possible. If you put a centre-back there, you're going to be far less competent going forwards. Whereas if you play Nunes, who can be this more overlapping offensive right-back, why not play Nunes there? So I'm going to predict the exact same back four from City's most recent game against Brentford. It can't be the exact same midfield because Rodri is out. So Nico, of course, has to come in his place. Now, I'm going to predict the exact same to midfield as well. This is going to be a big game for Reinders if City set up their midfield in the same way that we have been doing all season. Or the majority of the season, with Reinders, that right central midfielder, Foden, left central midfielder. Reinders is a really good goal threat. There's a part of me which is, even though this isn't going to change like the starting 11 predictions, there's a part of me which does want to almost bias even more so the goal scoring down that right side by having Foden there, who is far more of a goal scorer when he is in this sort of area rather than this area. Naturally, he's very left-footed, and we know that he loves to cut inside and hit from around that sort of area. The exact area, just a bit further back, where Everton have been conceding the vast majority of their goals this season. So I can definitely entertain the idea of Foden actually playing right central midfield. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to do that because that's what we've been doing for most of the season. But there's opportunity for players to rotate throughout a match. That's something to keep an eye on, definitely, for Foden to be getting into these goal-scoring positions. It's not necessarily going to happen. It's something worth keeping an eye on, though. Haaland is Haaland. He starts. The wide players, this is where it gets potentially interesting, maybe. I'm not starting Savio. He did start recently, which is lovely, of course. Doku has been in lightning, outrageous form, not just for City, but also for Belgium. And it goes back to the fullback in O'Brien, who is a little bit more physically demanding and asks more of those athletic questions of his opposite wide player. We saw that Savio struggled when asked to do that against Brentford, when their right wing back would push up onto Savio and essentially bully him, outmuscle him. Savio is not that outlet of a player like Doku is. Doku, I believe, would be far more suitable for this 1v1 matchup. And even though I'm going to reiterate that I don't think Everton are necessarily going to play really passive low block football, they're more likely to do it with Grealish off the pitch, in which case there is no better low block destroyer for City than Doku. So it does make sense, I believe, for him to be starting this game. The right wing, I would love Cherki to play. I would absolutely adore it if Cherki could play. He's a goal threat in his own right. He's also a fantastic creator. We all know that. And I do want him to be integrated into the starting 11 as soon as is realistically possible. But he's just coming back from injury. Doesn't make sense to predict him to start. I'm not so sure. So I am actually going to predict Cherki to stay on the bench, hopefully come on. So it's just a case of, do you go for Savio or do you go for Bob? And I don't like the Nunes-Savio pairing on that right side, so I am going to predict Oscar Bob to play there instead. So, and we saw that Bob and Reinders combined really effectively off that right side against Wolves. There's no reason why they can't do it against Everton. So how does the on-ball look if we do that? This is very boring, and I've just realised how I've basically predicted the exact same team, but given that our injured players are only just returning, I think it makes sense. The most logical decision is to predict a boring starting 11. I do think we're going to play with a back three because or rather, I think we're going to play with either a 2-3 or a 3-2. I'm not going to predict the 3-1-6 because we tend to see that when our opponents play a back five. So when Brentford, we knew they were going to play a back five. We knew Monaco were going to play a back five. We knew Burnley were going to play a back five, so we played 3-1-6. Evidence tells us Everton are not going to do that. Well, they could do that, but they haven't done it once this season. Who knows, maybe if we pin back and Jai, maybe they'll technically be playing a back five. But generally speaking, I'm not going to predict that. So we don't need that additional player in the forward line. We can afford to have another player in the more defensive unit to have a bit more rest, defense, security. So what am I therefore going to predict? I'm going to go for, maybe like a diamond midfield. That's that situation. Perhaps, or maybe we can have a double Nico. Maybe we can have Nico squared. So our 2-10s are technically Foden and Reinders. We know that O'Reilly will be floating around. Sometimes he will overlap, and that might allow Doku to come inside, in which case maybe Foden can drop slightly deeper. But generally speaking, the on ball, I think that would look really nice. Maybe more realistically, we will see a diamond midfield, so a 3-4-3. That is what I'm going to predict for City. LNobbins has predicted 2-1 to City, and I'm going to back LNobbins because she got the Old Trafford. She got the Manchester Derby score right, so I'm going to back LNobbins. I'm going to say 2-1, but what do you think the score is going to be? Get your predictions in the comment section and let me know what your thoughts are. That is the video. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, leave a like on the video. It's free. If you want to go the extra mile, then become a member of the channel, join the Hall of Fame like all of these beautiful people. And if you got this far, then you're going to get rewarded because you get to see my lovely Lego Star Wars starship that I made. And it's really pretty, isn't it? Look at how lovely it is. It's got the little Jedi in there and everything. It's class. I like Lego. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.